Good to get the kids out there, a bit of Easter spirit this morning.
Yeah, we've got a nice routine, having the privilege of playing Easter Monday so often over the years, and the little sacrifices, and they are small sacrifices you make, being in footy, having to work. Easter Sunday is offset nicely by bringing the families in.
Just one on individual we saw out there with Eddie Betts. How's the club sort of supported him and his family and what's gone on the last couple of days, and how difficult and challenging was that from the club's perspective to see what they've gone through?
Look, I'm not really sure, Mitch. I'm a little bit out of the loop as to what actually happened, but what I can speak to is how our club supports all our people, present and past. So I don't think I'm the right person to speak about it because I don't have a good understanding of what actually happened, but it was great seeing Eddie and Anna and the kids down here today, supporting sort of Tyson Stengel, whose family, as much as anything. So I think that was a bit more of an independent sort of situation, what's gone on, but I'll certainly follow up, and as always, our support will be there as much as possible.
That's not going to lead to anything permanent with Eddie, it's just here for the day? Just occasionally.
Well, I keep asking. Yeah, we'll keep asking the question if we could get him back, but Ed's just too busy with his other pursuits to work full-time in footy. I mean, even when he was in our program, it was only on a part-time basis, but he gave full-time value. So the day he rings up and asks for a job, we'll invent something for him.
Chris, do we read into Reece Stanley being in civvies today and Toby Conway not playing VFL yesterday, that you're going to have Conway in the ruck tomorrow?
Yeah, Toby will play and Reece won't. But it's possible to read too much into these things in other areas because we did bring out quite a few players from our VFL game yesterday. We've got a short break into gather round, which doesn't scare us, but we've just been pre-planned for it. So the Reece not playing for Toby's one, I'm happy to flag.
Duncan, Atkins, Bruin at that trio who will play tomorrow? Yeah,
they've all trained really well. So Mitch obviously didn't miss with any injury, and the other two were really minor, so we're optimistic they'll play.
How did you rate Brandon's performance last week, stepping up at the last minute?
I'm biased. I really like Brandon as a player, and we've had some challenges with our midfield getting all the guys that we want to play into the team. So I was really pleased with the way he played. He was integral in our performance, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on Easter Monday. He well and truly deserves a good go at Park.
And it's looking like a little bit of rain tomorrow. How does that impact your message and your structure and your game plan?
Just to be prepared for it, without going into the detail for exactly what it means for us. We always go in with contingencies, and we feel like we've got an experienced group of players who will understand what to do without much instruction, but we give it to them anyway. Just on
Reece, is there an issue, or is it just basically because of a quick turnaround into next Saturday?
Yeah, no issue. And it's worth flagging, especially the journalists that follow us a little bit more closely at Geelong would understand. But for the others, I mean, we manage our list. That's just the way we operate, and there's no point waiting until halfway through the year before you start that process, and it just makes sense for us with that 5-day break to start a little bit earlier and getting it rolling. But there will be very few players that will play every week for us this year.
Is Zach Tui in that boat as well for this week, Chris?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, we need to work through the exact makeup of our 23 at the moment, but there's a whole range of players in that conversation, albeit for different reasons. You have guys like Tom Hawkins at 35 and Jai Clark at 19, but the end result is that they will all come out at some stage within reason.
Geelong versus Hawthorns, one of the greater rivalries of modern time, and prehistoric modern time. But what do you think, is that a message that you convey to the young boys in the team, like Jai Clark, just how much this game means to the club?
Well, it's a privilege to play in the game. I think there's a fine line to be walked when it comes to drawing on the distant past, especially when in the next sentence you're likely to preach living in the moment. So that fine line means kind of balancing respect for the past and the respect we have for the opposition and the occasion, and the fact that it is a privilege. Not everyone gets to play Easter Monday. It may well be that we don't have a mortgage on that game way into the future. I hope we do. But in part, I'd like to think it's because we've played well enough to justify, our presence on that stage. So there's a little bit of that. But again, I think the priority for us is sort of being where we are right at the minute and getting that part right. That's the way we can kind of honour the past the best, I think.
Sorry to interrupt. Hawks had Dipper speak to the playing group during the week. I think it's 25 years since that famous 89 grand final. Is that something that you might lean into, getting past players from these important games, talking to the group?
Possibly. I think it's unlikely if we did it that we'd tell you guys. But each to their own. There's no right or wrong with that. It's as a policy, I try not to think too much about kind of what the opposition do. We try to sort of focus on us, and suffice to say that we expect them to come out really hard. It's a big occasion, but I think you've heard me say it before. I feel like I'm boring everyone repeating myself. I'm not a huge believer that there's 100% effort, which we expect all the time. But because this is a big game, we'll find 101. It's a bit disrespectful to the other games you play, in my opinion.
How have you found your forward line to start the season? A few new faces down there that have had a roll through there. How have you assessed the first 2 weeks?
We've been pleased with it. I hope Hawk can keep playing the way he has for a long time to come. He's obviously an important part of it. But we've had some good continuity there, which I always feel is important with your forward line. Ollie Henry has had a great pre-season, and Ollie Dempsey's forced his way into a pretty stable team because we have good availability with injury, and we think he's going to be a handy player for us. And the other one we're excited about is sort of getting Shannon Neal into the team at some point. So I'm confident that will come if he keeps doing the right things. But no, that forward half, I think it's got a good combination at the moment of looking pretty dangerous but defending pretty strongly as well.
Just 2 other names. We saw Gary Rowan out there. Have you got an update on where he's at? And I'm not sure if Bowes was in Kingy's list earlier, but is he in the front?
Yeah, so Bowes is in the available list, and Rowan. I'm going to try not to get into the habit of giving injury updates, mainly because the club does it separately, and it's just impossible for me to do it accurately. And I think what people are chasing is an exact number. And when I try to do that, I just guess and get it wrong. So I'm going to leave the injury updates to the others.
On the flip side of that forward line, Tom Stewart down the back. What have you made of his hot start to the year?
Well, I think I've said publicly, I think he's in the conversation to be the best player in the game. So I've got high expectations of him. So it might be reasonable to say he's just playing the way I expected him to. Look, we're going into round 3, really early start to the year, and that would be Tom's message if he was standing here, I would imagine. Don't get too excited. I'll play 2 games. There's a lot of work to do.
You walk into that Brisbane side 20 years ago, do you think, Tom?
Tom Stewart? Yeah. Easily. I can think of at least one guy that goes out.
Yeah. And just you mentioning those players in the mix, Bruin as well. He trained well this week.
He's in that mix, yeah. So I guess my assessment would be that we held him back last week. So I was always confident that he'd be right this week. But again, I understand that we might be a little bit hard to work out when it comes to the management of our players, because sometimes we do take them out proactively or err on the side of conservatism by giving them an extra week. And it's hard to forecast because it depends on your availability in other areas. But I think the good news is Tanner's in good shape and we expect him to play well. No worries. Can I just to finish, I'd just like to lend my support to Hawthorn and the work they're doing for the Deer family's contribution to charity. Paul Deer was, I'm not sure I should say it this week, but I grew up barracking for the Hawks, and Paul Deer was one of my footy heroes. So it'd be great to see one of those rare occasions where the Geelong supporters and Hawthorn supporters united and put on a purple scarf on Monday.